Good morning, dear students. Today we shall begin with the sixth part of the first chapter, that is Introduction of Microeconomics. In the previous part, we had studied about three types of economy, that is centrally planned economy, market economy, and mixed economy. Along with this, we also studied about two types of economics, that is positive economics and normative economics. So, moving on, branches of economics. Subject matter of economics has been studied under two broad branches, that is microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics. The term micro is derived from the Greek word mikros, which means small. Microeconomics is that part of economics which studies the behavior of individual units of an economy. For example, individual income, individual output, price of a commodity, etc. Its main tools are demand and supply. So this term micro has been derived from a Greek word that is mikros, and it means small. So in microeconomics, we deal with the individual units of an economy, which is basically a very small part of an economy. So we deal with various things such as individual income, individual output, price of a commodity, or demand of a particular product, and things like that. So over here, the main tools are individual demand and individual supply. We study about individual demand and supply in microeconomics. Macroeconomics. The term macro has been derived from the Greek word macros, which means large. Macroeconomics is that part of economics which studies the behavior of aggregates of the economy as a whole. For example, national income, aggregate output, aggregate consumption, etc. Its main tools are aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So this term macro has been derived from another Greek word that is macros, and it means large. So over here in macroeconomics, we study about the total of an economy. Aggregate means total. So an economy as a whole, how things are taking place, what is the national income. National income, you already know that it is the total income. So national income is again talking about total. Aggregate output means total output. Aggregate consumption means total consumption that has taken place in a economy. And over here, the main tools, the main things that are used to determine various other components to help the government to decide what is to be done. These tools are aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So this is the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. First of all, the meaning. Microeconomics is that part of economic theory which studies the behavior of individual units of an economy. On the contrary, macroeconomics is that part of economic theory which studies the behavior of aggregates of the economy as a whole. In microeconomics, the tools are demand and supply, which is also known as individual demand and supply. We will be studying about demand and supply in the later chapters. In macroeconomics, the tools are aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Aggregate means total. The basic objective of microeconomics is to determine price of a commodity or factor of production. In macroeconomics, the basic objective is to determine income and employment level of an economy as a whole. Degree of aggregation. Microeconomics involves limited degree of aggregation. For example, market demand is derived by aggregating individual demands of all the buyers in a particular market. Now over here they are saying that in microeconomics there is a very limited degree of aggregation. We do use total over here in microeconomics, but that total that is being used over here is constitutes of very small number of people. Like for example, over here, in order to calculate the market demand over here refers to demand for a particular product. So market demand is derived by totaling all the individual demands. So that much summation, that much aggregation is used in microeconomics. In macroeconomics, it involves the highest degree of aggregation. For example, aggregate demand is derived for the entire economy. So in macroeconomics, there is a very high degree of aggregation, and over here everything is related to an economy as a whole. Basic assumptions. Microeconomics assumes all the macro variables to be constant. That is, it assumes that national income, consumption, savings, etc. are constant. So when we are going to study microeconomics, we will assume that all the other macro level variables such as income, consumption, all these things are constant. What is changing is all those things that are related to microeconomics only. And in macroeconomics, it assumes that all the micro variables like decision of households or firms or price of individual product, etc. are constant. So same is the case over here as well. In case of macroeconomics, when we are going to study macroeconomics, we will consider all the micro variable, all the smaller variables such as demand for a particular product or price of the product or its supply or the decisions of a household. All these things are considered to be constant. And over here the focus is mainly on income and employment and consumption and savings. Other names. Microeconomics is also known as price theory, and macroeconomics is also known as income and employment theory. Examples of microeconomics are individual income, individual output, etc. And examples of macroeconomics are national income, national output, etc. So whenever this word national is written, it means total of economy as a whole. Now with this, we have completed the first chapter, that is introduction of microeconomics. So let us quickly revise whatever we have studied, and after that we will be discussing the NCERT exercise questions. So first of all, we studied about evolution of this term economics. Economics is derived from two Greek words, that is oikos and nemens, and it means household management, and it was first used by Dr. Marshall in 1890 in his book Principles of Economics. Then we studied about what is the meaning of an economy. So an economy is a framework or a system within which economic activities of production, consumption and capital formation are undertaken. Next was the meaning of economics. Economics is the social science of human behavior which aims at allocation of scarce resources in such a way that customers can maximize their satisfaction, producers can maximize their profit, and society can maximize social welfare. Then we studied about scarcity. Scarcity is basically a situation when supply of resource is less than the demand of resources. Now scarcity leads to choice. Since resources are scarce and resources can be allocated to alternative uses, this gives rise to the problem of choice making. So scarcity causes choice. Choice implies decision making, and decision making relates to usage of limited resources in a manner that customer maximizes his satisfaction. What is an economic problem? Economic problem is basically a problem of choice. Due to limited wants and scarce resources, this problem of choice making arises. What causes economic problems? Now there are three causes to economic problem. The first one is unlimited wants. Human wants are unlimited. The second one is limited or scarce resources. The resources that is available to us humans are very limited. And the third one is alternative uses of these scarce resources. The central problems of an economy are three. The first one is what to produce. What to produce has got two parts in it. First of all, what to produce, as in which of the consumer good and which of the capital good is to be produced, and the second part deals with how much to produce. When it has been decided that which product has to be produced, the quantity of the product is also to be decided. The second problem is how to produce. There are various kinds of methods through which production can take place. It can be labor intensive method or capital intensive method. So the producer has to decide which method is to be used so that all the resources are being used efficiently and the cost is less. The third central problem is for whom to produce, whether to produce for rich or for poor. Now, along with these three central problems of an economy, there are two very significant add-on problems. The first one is how to achieve fuller utilization of resources. Now, when the resources are available, it has to be utilized in the best possible manner. For example, over here in India, human resources are available in abundance, so they need to be utilized as much as possible. The second add-on problem is how to achieve growth of resources. In many countries, there are many untapped resources. So in order to increase the pace of development, these countries need to realize their resources. They need to explore it and they need to use it for the development of an economy. After that, we studied about production possibility curve, which is also known as production boundary or production frontier, and also known as transformation line or transformation curve. So there are various names for production possibility curve, and production possibility curve is a curve which shows the production possibilities of two goods that can be produced with given resources and techniques of production. So over here there is an example which says that if an economy wants to produce only one product, they can allocate all their resources for that particular product. If they want to produce the other good, they can allocate all the resources for that other good. If they want to produce both the goods in combination, then they can allocate various amount of resources to these goods. So over here there is this production possibility schedule, which is showing 5 different production possibility combinations, and in the next part there is this production possibility curve, which is basically the graph version of your production possibility schedule. Attainable and unattainable combinations of output. So all the points that are mentioned on the production possibility curve, and within the production possibility curve, if there is any other point, all these combinations are attainable, but any point which is beyond the production possibility curve, all those points are unattainable combinations. So the assumptions of production possibility curve were: resources are fixed, resources are fully utilized, and technology remains constant. The properties of production possibility curve are: production possibility curve slopes downwards and it is concave to the point of origin. Rotation of production possibility curve: when there is an efficient technology for the production of good X with the same amount of resources, there is going to be more production. As a result, the production possibility curve is going to shift from AB to AB dash. Same is in the situation of good Y. If there is an efficient technology for the production of good Y with the same amount of resources, production amount is going to increase. Shift of production possibility curve. Shift of the curve takes place when there is an increase in resources. Whenever there is an increase in resource, there will be a rightward shift of production possibility curve. When resources are reduced, there will be a leftward shift of production possibility curve. And when efficient technology is available for both good X and Y, then production possibility curve is going to shift towards right. Next, we studied about opportunity cost. Opportunity cost refers to value of a factor or a resource in its next best alternative use. So over here we saw that if a particular resource can be used to produce 2 different kinds of product, and one product is going to be sold for rupees 2000 and the other is going to be sold for rupees 1000, the producer is going to produce the product which is going to give him rupees 2000, and to produce that particular product, the producer had to let go the next best alternative use of that product, which was going to give him rupees 1000. So rupees 1000 is the opportunity cost. This particular example showed that there are 4 uses. The producer chooses the best one, that is use 4, and for that he had to let go the next best alternative, that is use 1. Over here, this is the graphical representation of the 2 products that can be produced with the same resource, and the producer chooses that particular commodity which gives maximum profit. Next, we studied about marginal opportunity cost. It is the ratio between units of one good sacrificed along with the units of other goods that is being gained. So the formula for this one is change in y by change in x. It is also known as marginal rate of transformation. So there is this sum that we had solved. For the first one, it will always be dash. There is nothing to compare with as a result. It will always be a dash or 0. And after that, there is a decrease of 10 units in the production of good y. So it will be 10 divided by the gain, that is 1 units. So 10 by 1, that makes it 10. So similarly, we need to solve it. This is the graphical representation of marginal opportunity cost, which basically determines the shape of production possibility curve. Next, we studied about what is an economy, and then there are 3 types of economy, that is market economy, centrally planned economy, and mixed economy. Market economy is an economy where all the means of productions are owned, controlled and operated by private individuals. Over here, the decision making is done by the private individuals, and the level of competition is very high, and the private individuals take up this production work so that they can earn maximum profit, and in this kind of economy there is no interference of the government. The next type of economy was centrally planned economy. Over here, all the means of productions are owned, controlled and operated by the government, and it is also known as socialist economy. Over here, all the decision making is done by the government. There is no competition, and motive over here is social welfare, which is guided by planning mechanism. The last type of economy is mixed economy, where both public and private sector play its role. Both of these sectors coexist, and although there is no restriction about the ownership of the property, but if there is any individual who owns a huge amount of property, the government can put certain kinds of restrictions over there, and the government even controls the price mechanism. The government sees to it that the prices of the commodity do not rise very high, and they even provide the necessary items through public distribution system. And over here in this type of economy, the main focus is development. Next, we studied about economics. The term economics, you already know, it is a social science that studies human behavior. Now there are 2 types of economics: positive economics and normative economics. Positive economics deals with issues related to past, present and future, and it can be verified through various facts and figures, and it does not reflect any kind of opinion. On the contrary, normative economics deals with what ought to be. It deals with the opinion of economists, and as a result, it many times leads to controversies and debates. These statements over here in normative economics are not verifiable truth, but they try to give solution, the ideal solution to the economic problems. The branches of economics are 2: micro and macro. Micro means small. As a result, over here in microeconomics, we study individual units of an economy. On the contrary, macro means large. So over here we study about the aggregates of an economy. So these are the NCERT questions. The first one, discuss the central problems of an economy, has already been done. I have already given this in your previous assignments, so you do not need to do this one. The second one is, what do you mean by production possibilities of an economy? This is a very easy question. I'm sure you will be able to do it. The third question is, what is a production possibility frontier? This has already been done. The next question is, discuss the subject matter of economics. So over here you can write, the subject matter of economics includes both micro and macroeconomics, and you need to explain these two terms, what is microeconomics and what is macroeconomics, in brief. The next question is, distinguish between a centrally planned economy and a market economy. This has already been given in your previous assignment. The next question is, what do you understand by positive economic analysis? I'm sure you will be able to do it. It is the same as positive economics. The next question is, what do you understand by normative economic analysis? This again is very easy. The last question is, distinguish between microeconomics and macroeconomics. I have already discussed this, so I don't think there will be any issue in answering this question. So that is it. The first chapter of microeconomics is over. Thank you.